Welcome back. And today we're going to go ahead and have a fun show. We're going to go ahead and talk about a very talented speedway rider. This guy was really good. And although he didn't win any Speedway national championships, this rider was really popular and was one of the most popular riders of modern day Speedway. Who is it? It's Danny Berzerko Becker. Do you know Danny Becker? He was great. And we're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch all over the place. We're going to talk about a really talented and great writer, and Danny Becker. Now, Danny was born in 1955, and his love for motorcycles stemmed from an early age, like most writers, right? And he worked for Ron Stewart over there at the welding, Orange County Welding. And Ron really helped Danny go ahead and start his career. And he was helping him, giving him jobs around the shop. And Danny Becker would haul parts of engines to the other mechanics to have them board out the engines and stuff. And Danny was just helping out wherever he could because he just probably didn't have enough money in his family, and Ron was a very big supporter. So Danny just showed Ron how much he really loved riding motorcycles, and he worked for Ron Stewart over there as just a 12-year-old kid. He showed a lot of desire. You know, as a speedway rider, you really have the desire that really means a lot when you have the heart and the desire to be a racer. And Danny Berzerko Becker had that desire in his heart. That was really great. And he showed Ron that he had that desire. And Ron turned out to be his first sponsor. Ron saw the talent that Danny Becker had. And Danny Becker was loaded with talent. I mean, he had more natural talent than probably anybody. He was just amazing. And he went to the Fountain Valley High School. And at the age of 16, Danny would go to like the go-kart midget races, and he would attend the Costa Mesa Speedway at the fairgrounds. He watched all those races, and his love for motorcycles grew and grew. Danny Becker knew what he wanted to do, and it wasn't racing go-karts. It was riding the Speedway bike. So Ron Stewart went ahead and got him a really nice Jawa Speedway bike. I think it was a JP to begin with. And he was practicing over at Saddleback Park. Actually, I saw him ride back then, and he was good. He was just a young, raw talent, fast as lightning. And Danny just pretty much knew how to ride one way, and that was WFO. When Danny had the throttle, it was all the way. He gunned that thing all the way around the track. Danny Becker, he knew how to ride that Speedway bike, and it was fast. And so in 1971, Danny actually started racing Speedway. That was his year, 71. It was 69 was the first year of Speedway. So it was only 2 years after opening at Costa Mesa in 71 that Danny started racing at the Costa Mesa Fairgrounds. And he was like a poster boy. You had Sonny Nutter as the first poster boy of Speedway, very handsome guy. And then you had Danny Berzerko Becker. He became the new poster boy. Sonny Nutter was out to the pasture, and a new king of the pasture came in. And it was Danny Berzerko Becker. All the girls loved Danny Becker. He was great. And so that was really cool. He would be bothered by girls all the time. I mean, girls would like call him up. Back in the day of the landline, do you remember the landline? They would call, here's my comb, they would call Danny Becker, hey, Danny, we want to have your baby. And Danny would say, oh, he would hang up. Danny didn't really like that kind of talk. But Danny had to keep changing his telephone number. And so he changed it more than 9 times because girls kept calling him. Very handsome. He had those green eyes and that beautiful charm, smile. And here's his smile. We're over here. There's a little bit of smile. He was very like nice guy, and everybody picked up on Danny Becker's good karma. So that's exactly what happened, and it was just it came too much for Danny because he's just a nice guy, and he's not into like all the wild stuff. He's kind of a serious guy. And the girls didn't know that. And they're like, hey, how's my baby, Danny? And Danny's like, ah. He was not really happy about the girls doing that. So he wasn't really happy. But every time Danny Becker, he raced, it was Larry Motormouth Huffman. He's going to be on the show tonight. So stay tuned for Larry Huffman. And Larry Huffman would stand up on that platform at the Costa Mesa Speedway. And he would do that only for the very few riders. And Danny Becker was one of those few riders. He would just get up there and he would say, Danny Berzerko Becker. And he would like do the Huffman shuffle. We're going to ask Larry Huffman about that Huffman shuffle. I bet he can't do that one today. He's kind of getting up there in years. But that was really exciting when Larry Huffman would announce the Speedway and get really excited and go ahead and do that Huffman shuffle. It was really good fun. Everybody had a great time. It was really fun. So that was super. And the boys, they really admired Danny Becker as far as all the guys because his talent was just off the chart. And the girls went ahead and fell in love with Danny because of his green eyes and his charm. And Danny was just admired and loved by pretty much all the girls. And the guys loved his riding style. There was one time when I was a little boy, before I bought my Speedway bike, I got a Speedway bike, my first bike from who? Danny Berzerko Becker. But we're going to talk about this one race I saw Danny when I was just a little kid. He actually liked to ride the outside. Danny Becker he lover of the dirt and the outside. He'd get lots of traction and he would shoot lots of dirt over the wall. He was a pretty cool guy. But one time he was going into turn 1 and 2 at Costa Mesa. Very hot. Danny Becker was going in high. It was like ripping. And then he went too far and he was going to hit the wall. There's a big crash wall around the Costa Mesa Speedway. And Danny was going to hit the wall. So he just lifted the bike up and he hit the wall with a wheelie and he rode all the way around the wall. He was on the wall riding a wheelie. I think I have that thumbnail here behind my image. If you look at that, that's Danny Berzerko Becker riding the wheelie along the crash wall. It was insane. It was Berzerko. And that's how Danny got his name, Berzerko. It was crazy. Danny was just like an amazing guy. He did stuff that nobody could do. I rode Speedway and I was nothing like Danny Becker. He was a wild, crazy, full bore kind of guy. And there's a lot of guys that, we just loved admiring his style because a lot of riders can't really ride like that because it's too out of control. But Danny Becker was in control when he was out of control. Go figure. But Danny Becker was an amazing rider and he could just like not crash most of the time, but he crashed. And he could just hang on and dazzle and razzle dazzle the crowd. He was just amazing and he was just a crazy guy. And like I say, I got my first bike from Danny Becker. I was looking in the Orange County Register and I saw the Speedway bike for sale. It was like $750. So it was a used JP, one that sponsor gave Danny Becker, and he didn't want it no more. He was riding the Jawas, and it was a JP. He didn't ride the JPs no more. So I called Danny Becker. I didn't even know who it was. And he said, the bike's for sale. And I said, can I come over, Danny, and look at the bike? And he said, yeah, come on over, I'm sure. So I drove over with my mom. I think I could barely drive it, but I was like 16. And I went over there, and Danny had this beautiful, brand new JP sitting there for sale. It looked like it hadn't even been run before. It was beautiful. And I said, I want that. Give me that. Here's the money, Danny. And I took the bike, and I put it in the back of my mom's Pinto station wagon. And I was the proud owner of Danny Becker's Speedway bike. It was fast and it was amazing. That bike was really cool and I loved it so much. So my first bike was and I got to know Danny, like as a friend, and we'd see each other, at the races, and he was just a nice guy. Danny Becker was like the coolest guy. When he'd meet you, he acted like he was your best friend. Like, hi, Brian, how you doing? And he was just a good guy. You know, he just had that natural spirit of goodness, and his heart was pure as gold. And he was just a sweet, sweet guy. I mean, you don't see those kind of guys anymore. And we saw that with Danny Berzerko Becker. He really had a pure heart. He was just an amazing guy. And you don't meet many people like Danny Berzerko Becker. That name Berzerko didn't really apply to him in his personal life, only on the racetrack. So that was pretty good. And when Danny raced, it was all business. I mean, Danny put on the race face and he was ready to kick somebody's butt. I mean, Danny was all business and he was just a crazy good rider. And then when Danny finished the race, he would be the first one to smile, crack a joke, and just say, "Hey, how you doing?" You know, Danny was just a sweetheart when he finished riding the bike. But when he was on the track, he was all business. He was tough as nails. And Danny Berzerko was out to win that race. He was really a fireball. And so it was good to see a guy like that. I mean, he wasn't around when he raced. He was WFO all the way, wide open, and he was really crazy and good. This raw, natural talent. It was really amazing to watch. You know, I've watched Speedway for a lot of years, and I swear, I have never tried a ride like Danny Becker. There is only one Danny Berzerko Becker that can ride like him, because that guy was just, he had it really natural. He was good like Danny Berzerko Becker. And like I say, it just was wide open. I mean, Danny was wide open in the straights, and then in the turns, it was wide open. That guy didn't even know how to slow down. He was all the way full bore. He actually gave a lot of these top riders for the money, and it was on the hunt after Mike Bass and Rick Woods. I mean, Berzerko Becker was scary, and he really, was wide open. And like I say, in his personal life, he was a loving, sweet guy. He wasn't Berzerko or anything. He was good. And when Danny raced, everyone had their eye on who? Danny Berzerko Becker. I mean, the whole stadium was just fixed. One guy. I don't think I've ever seen someone like commanding all that attention, because when Danny was riding, you never knew what you were going to get. I mean, Danny could crash, or he could hit the wall and fly over it, or he would win the race. I mean, Danny was like a wild card. You never knew what you're going to get with Danny Berzerko Becker. He was pretty amazing rider, and he's just really great. And most of all, he was fun to watch. I mean, we had a good time watching Danny Becker, and the announcer, Larry Huffman, had a good time announcing Danny Berzerko Becker. So that was really a lot of fun. And he just put so much dirt into the stands, and he just had this talent that like never stopped. I mean, he was just a great wheelie guy. He would wheelie all the race. One time I saw Danny, he touched the tapes in a scratch race, and they said, "Danny, you're out of the race, Danny." And he got mad. Danny was really pissed off. And he goes, "No, I want to race," because he was a competitor. And the referee said, "No, Danny, you're out. Get the heck off the track." And Danny got really mad. He just touched the tape a little. And then Danny went ahead and drove through all the tapes. And all the tapes were, the starting line is these tapes. And Danny blew through all the tapes. There was the tapes all on his bike. And he was doing wheelies down the straightaway with all the tapes flying from his bike, hanging on the handlebars and on the chain and everything, chain guard. I mean, Danny was just a fun guy. He blew the tapes and totally pissed off the referees. And he was mad because he didn't do, I think, that much. And when the referee excluded Danny Becker, he got mad. I'm going to blow this place up. And Danny was just like that. He was a really cool guy, and he was a fiery dude, when he was on the racetrack. And then off the racetrack, he was a super nice guy. So that was kind of what happened to him. and he had this star quality. Danny Becker was really like a superstar. I mean, he was admired everywhere. I mean, Danny Becker was just like a legend. I mean, everyone just was like amazed at this guy's talent. It was off the charts. Danny Becker was really a legend. I mean, his style was second to none. No one's ever had this style. And he just was really a great rider. Danny Becker was really just unbelievable. His popularity, his fame. He was a living legend, Danny Becker. And he just like, he was a happy-go-lucky guy in his real life. He just said, like, call me Danny. And they'd say, no, Danny, you're a living legend. And Danny would say, no, I'm just Danny Becker, you know. Danny was a humble guy, and he was really, that's what made Danny so special. Not that he was a good motorcycle rider, he was, but he had this heart of gold. He had this humility that sort of made Danny likable. I mean, you like this guy because he never bragged about himself. He never said like, oh, I'm Danny Becker, I'm really good. He just was like, I'm just like you know, I'm just a normal guy, you know. He didn't really see himself as the superstar, which he really was. And so that was really neat to see his humility, Danny's goodness, and he just was really loved by everyone. He was a master entertainer, and like I say, he was just the most humble guy you could ever meet. And I think that drew people closer to Danny. You know, it didn't drive him away. His humility made you like him more. So he had more and more people liking him because he was such a good guy. And he was so sweet and humble that, you know, you just kind of like, you know, just enjoyed being with him. Just that kind of guy. And his number was 22. And Danny made that number famous. And I think Luke Becker has that number now. So there's another Becker, but there is no relation to Danny as far as we know. Maybe, but I don't think so. And Luke Becker is from Northern California, and Danny Becker is from Southern California. I don't think they crossed the paths very much. But Danny went ahead and raced from 1971 and into the 1980s. His glory days was in the 70s, though. And when Danny was getting into the 80s, I think he kind of wasn't like the same. He was amazing when he was in his early 70s, mid 70s, and then his ability kind of lessened a little bit. But when he was in his prime, there was nobody like Danny Becker, and he actually was in three national championships. Danny Becker was in 3 United States Speedway national championships. In 1972, he started in 71. So it only took him 1 year. He was in the United States Nationals. So Danny Becker was a good rider. And he was in 73 and 1974 United States Speedway championships. So he was in 3 United States Speedway championships. And he never actually raced over in Europe. Wouldn't it be fun to watch Danny Becker on the long track? Because Danny actually liked the long track. When they interviewed Danny, he said, I like the long track. You know, he did good at Irwindale because they had lots of dirt on the outside of Irwindale, and it was a little bigger than Costa Mesa or the other tracks. So Danny was like a track lover with lots of dirt. So can you imagine Danny Becker in England racing on those long, fast tracks? That would have been amazing. Like, that would have been crazy watching Danny with a fistful of dirt going down a half-mile track or like quarter mile. Danny would have been a lot of fun to watch him ride, but we never got to see that, and we don't really know why, but Danny would have really been a kick in the pants to see over the pond in UK. That would have been really great. And he was just a sweetheart. I mean, he would empty his wallet for some poor guy on the side of the road, some like a bum homeless guy. Becker would go to him like, are you okay? You know, do you need money? I mean, he had that heart of gold. He was a sweet guy. And then if he was in the car, they were driving the car home with his wife, and Danny would see an injured animal on the side of the road, and he would stop the car and get out and help the little animal. I mean, he had his heart in the world. I mean, Danny was just this guy from like heaven. I mean, he really had this heart of gold. And that's what really made Danny Becker so special, really, is that he had this sweetness inside of him. And it was genuine. You know, he did what he did because it was real. He didn't do it to try to be nice or try to everybody talk about him. He did it because the goodness of his heart. Danny Becker was really an amazing guy. And he didn't like gossip. You know, he didn't like people talking like bad words about each other and stuff. When he heard gossip, he didn't like it. You know, he told people like to shut up. You know, like shut up. I don't want to hear that. You know, he didn't like us calling him saying, "I want to have your baby." He was like, "Go away." You know, I don't want to hear that kind of talk. He was a sincere, good, deep guy. You know, like he was no nonsense. He didn't like a lot of gossip and chatter and chismes talk. You know, talk that's just stupid and making rumors about people. He wasn't into that kind of talk, which is really great. And he would often say to his friends and his neighbors and stuff, he would say like to people like, "I love you, man, I love you," you know. And what? And he would genuinely mean that when he said, "I love you." He really meant that. He would tell those new friends and his old friends, everybody, he would say, "Well, you know, I really love you." And people were really just like, "Wow, you know, that's really cool." So Danny Becker had this heart of gold, and he would just tell people he loved them. And some people he didn't even know. And he'd say, "You know, I really love you, man." And to me, he was always like that too. He was always like, "Hey, Brian, how you doing? You know, like, it's really good to see you. You're a great guy." And Danny Becker didn't, you know, he didn't know me that well, but he was just had this heart that was really golden. And we really respect Danny Becker for that. You know, forget the writing. I mean, this guy was an amazing human being. So that was kind of neat thing about him. He met his wife, is Jivelin, and it was in a bar, a dive bar at Costa Mesa. Danny Becker was a little bit wild, like he would go to bars, and Danny partied a little bit more than he should have. He was kind of a wild character a little bit. You have certain writers like Mike Bass, they're very, you know, straight, no drinking, no partying. They exercise, they kept their bodies in perfect shape and no partying. And then Danny Becker was a little bit of a party animal. I mean, he liked to have fun, and he had too much fun sometimes. And he met his wife at some dive bar in Costa Mesa, California. That's about right. That didn't matter. And they were engaged on New Year's Eve with his wife in 2011. And just a few weeks later, was diagnosed with a stage 3 of cancer. Danny Becker, he had a cancer, and it was really bad. So he had to postpone his wedding plans because this cancer was invading his body and making him really sick. So that was really a bummer for Danny with all the heart of gold and stuff. And then he has this stupid cancer, and it's like stage 3, I think, which is kind of terminal. So he knew that his number was kind of coming, and he wanted to get married to his fiancee, and he wanted to get married before he died. That was very important for Danny Becker. So, but he postponed it, and then he went ahead and had treatments for his cancer and all that kind of bad stuff. And Danny wanted to, like I say, get married before his family, before his friends, to his wife. And Danny wanted to say a final farewell and "I love you" to everyone. So that was very sad. I mean, Danny went ahead and he said his farewells at his wedding day. And then September 14th, they were married in the backyard of their Huntington Beach home. And like I say, it was Danny's final farewell to his friends and family. How sad was that? And he said he didn't want anyone to be sad at his passing. He wanted everyone to be happy in true Danny Berzerko Becker form. He didn't want people to cry for his passing. He wanted people to remember him, to think positive of him, to just like have a good life and to think good things. He didn't want to think anything bad. That's the kind of person Danny Berzerko Becker was. And he never complained. Danny was in a lot of pain with his cancer, And he never like made a like whining or complaining. He expressed gratitude to his family and friends. Instead of complaining, he was saying I love you to people and thanking them for everything. And his friends and his fans, his race fans, everybody, Danny really loved everyone. And he passed away sadly on November 23rd, 2013. Danny Berzerko Becker passed away that day, and it was a sad day. We all remember that. It was just the worst day that when Danny actually passed away. You know, nobody thinks Danny Berzerko Becker would be passed away. And then we have lots of Speedway legends like Steve Bast and Rick Woods and now Danny Becker. We have a lot of these legends that, you know, have passed away, and it's really sad. These guys are like Speedway gods, and now they're dead. So it's really shocking and just really humbling when you see that. And a few days before he died, Danny was talking to his wife, and he said, I'm the luckiest in the world and alive. I mean, Danny was, here he was in all this pain and then all this suffering, and his time was really close to death. And he turns to his wife and says, I am the luckiest guy on the planet Earth. I mean, what kind of talk is that? You know, like that is cool. And he knew that he was loved, and he approached death the same way that he approached riding a Speedway bike. And that was pretty much full throttle, wide open. That's how he looked at life. Like, he was brave. Danny Berzerko Becker was a brave warrior. He was a gladiator. He approached death like it was nothing. He didn't care because he was Danny Becker, and he was just an amazing person. And he was not afraid to die. He had no fear when he was on the motorcycle, and he had no fear with the sickness, and he had no fear in death. Danny Berzerko Becker was truly an amazing person, and he was strong and brave, and nothing fazed him. And he loved everybody and was thankful for all the fans and people who loved him, who supported him. And he was just a great human being. So that was Danny Becker. We will always remember that man who had that special heart. He surpasses all that amazing writing ability a lot because he was such a great human being. We don't see that in too many people. I wish I had those qualities because that would be really great, you know, because Danny had qualities we all dream of, and he had them. He had that humility, and he had that genuine goodness. He was a good guy, and it wasn't fake. It was really real, and he had a nature that was amazing. And so that was the Danny Berzerko Becker story, the amazing Danny Berzerko Becker story. The guy could ride, talent. I mean, he had the natural talent. Just was amazing, and he just did it like it was second nature. Like he was born to be a Speedway rider, and he could hold on to that bike when everything was bad. Danny Becker held on like, no problem, no problem. And things were going crazy. And Danny just had that courage. He had that strength and fortitude inside. Like when he died, he had that strength and fortitude. Nothing fazed him. He just was a brave warrior, Danny Berzerko Becker. And we love Danny. You know, I miss him. And, you know, I wish I could have spent more time with him because he just was one of those guys that just attracted to him. You know, like he just has that character. He's just a great human being. And he was one of the most talented, raw talented riders ever. I mean, nobody can ride like Danny Berzerko Becker because he was just one of a kind. And we miss Danny Berzerko Becker. Rest in peace, Danny. We really miss you. And, you know, we just pray for your family and we just pray for your soul. And we hope he's resting well in paradise because Danny Becker was just a true, genuine champion and hero. And we should remember Danny, the goodness he had. And that's why we do these blogs, so we can remember these great human beings. A lot of people don't really know that. And, you know, Danny Becker doesn't have a lot of stuff on, let's say, YouTube and stuff. And people can't really know who this guy is. And that's one of the reasons why we do this show, because we want to honor these very special people because they are very special and they deserve it, really. They really deserve to be honored and to be loved and think about like who they were in their life because they were very special and we should remember them, who they were. And just, we really miss Danny Becker and we miss his writing. He was really cool. I mean, nobody could write like him. When I raced smooth, like I wasn't wild really. I was a smooth rider, pole rider. And Danny was a wild man. He was on the outside riding with a handful of dirt and he was just crazy guy. And he was a lot of fun. You like those guys who have a lot of aggression and who are a little wild, a little easy, and that just think nothing but full bore, like wide open. If they live, if they die, they don't care, Life is just meant to go, And that was the way Danny lived his life, and that's the way he died. He lived his life like he died. He lived like a gladiator. He died like a gladiator. And we really miss Danny Becker. So that's the Danny Becker story. Woo! And we're going to have Larry Huffman on later on today in California, tonight at 6 p.m. And we have Bruce the Fox Penhall, the world champion, on the show Saturday at 9 a.m. So thank you so much for joining our live. I wanted to just have a little show tonight and talk about Danny Berzerko Becker. Because why? Because we love Danny Berzerko Becker. He was really a neat guy. And everyone who knew really loved that guy. So he is worthy to be honored. And we honor his memory so much. And we love Danny Becker. So thank you so much. Ride safe. Stay on those two wheels. No crashes. And we'll see you on next show later on today. So join us for Larry Motormouth Huffman. Thank you so much from the Beehive. And subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel, Brian B. And ring the notification because we have lots and lots of really great shows lining up. We really do. We have many United States champions. We got more world champions lining up. I mean, this thing's crazy. We got some great people. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next